Welcome to the Music Production Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by my brand new sample pack, Guitar Chords. Guitar Chords contains 185 electric guitar chord samples. You get 15 chords for each key, including major and minor triads, as well as suspended 4, major 6, major 7, major 9, dominant 7. You got minor 6, minor 7. There's 15 different chords for every key, and they're beautifully sampled, and they come with 10 Ableton Live audio effect racks, which will help emphasize the sound of those guitar chords to make them a little more interesting and exciting to your taste. Right now you're hearing an example of guitar chords in action. Very simple idea, just drag these right in your project and build chord progressions that way, and they come out really nice. So check out guitar chords at my site, brianfunk.com. And if you use the code PODCAST, you'll get 25% off your purchase. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk, and this is a show where we get to talk about all the things related to music production. And today I think we're going to probably get into a lot of practical things and some philosophy with my guest, Jörgen Kjellgren. And Jörgen is a producer from Stockholm, correct? Sweden?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so we were able to work out a good time that fit for both of us. But we got to talking through email just over some of like the philosophical things that come in with producing music. And he led me to some of his music, which I thought was great. Really nice. The ambient stuff is super cool. I've been enjoying it just to relax. I don't think I got to tell you that, but it's been really nice just to have on, especially going to sleep to it.
Oh, thanks, man.
I've been on a big hunt for like cool music to go to sleep to lately. I've just
yeah.
growing up, I always went to sleep to music. It was usually like loud rock bands, but lately I've been into the more calming stuff. So Thank you for that.
Cool.
And yeah, so I guess we're going to get going. So welcome to the show, Jörgen. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. I've been looking forward to this for a while, actually.
Cool. Yeah, me too. I'm always like excited to just talk about like the creative process and how we manage to do things. And one of the things that really impressed me is that you've put out 9 EPs in the last like year and a half or so. And so that's there's got to be something behind that you can share, I'm sure. So I'm excited to like dig in a little bit.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
So maybe just to get everybody acquainted, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do musically, and then we'll be in.
Yeah. So I guess I'm an ambient producer. Oh, you got dogs.
I do. I thought you were sleeping.
Right. Okay. Ambient producer. Been doing that for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. But I came from... way back, I grew up in church and stuff, so I've always been around music, playing in a brass band, singing in choirs, gospel choirs, started playing guitar back in those days, ended up in a few rock bands, touring, stuff like that, and songwriting more like in a sort of traditional way, maybe like, I don't know, someone like Tom Petty would have done it or whatever, like pretty straight rock music.
Right.
And I released a few 2 solo releases with that kind of stuff, sort of Swedish indie folk, I guess you would call it. Then I don't know, something happened, so I sort of went quiet for a few years, and I guess I didn't have anything to sing about. And then I sort of struggled to remember how it happened, but I started looking at like YouTube videos with the Ableton and the Ableton Push, and I don't know. I got a sort of like a 30-day live demo, and then I just said to myself that I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna spend a little time in here every day for 30 days, and when the 30 days are up, I'll decide if I'm gonna buy this or if I don't know, keep going with the Logic or something. Ended up buying Ableton Live. Started making. I have like, I don't know, 500 8-bar techno tracks. That kind of sort of stuff that you do. They're so easy to get into those things on the push, and then you just never, it never goes anywhere. But it's fun in the moment. So that, I guess, was my sort of the start of me doing electronic music. And the more I spent time doing that, I started to find sounds that I like and the process that works for me and things like that. So I started making ambient music and playing around with that sort of vibe. And I did, what is it now, 2019. So in 2018 I released, did you say 9 EPs? That sounds about right. Yeah. 3 of them, or no, actually most of them I did on my OP1. A few of them I did on the subway, like going back to work and back, giving myself like pretty strict time restrictions and things like that. So I think I got productive. Part of it is because I found a process, or like I made a box for myself that it's sort of tight enough or small enough that something with those restrictions sort of propels me forward. And there's like, no room for spending hours auditioning samples or whatever. So that was one sort of thing for me that I happened to figure out, that if I make my set of tools or I'll just write down rules for myself in a notebook or things like that, and if I'm successful with that, I can be very productive. Another thing I think worked, it made me very productive, but now I'm trying to change it, was that in my day job is as a copywriter, and I work a lot with sort of tech development startups. And in that part of my life, I think I've had it sort of beaten out of me, procrastination. So I don't have there's no starting stretch for me. I just I like, if I decide to make a track, I start making a track like right away. There's no messing around with stuff. I think that's what made me make 9 EPs in 1 year, basically. I'm really good at starting and I'm really good at finishing. Now I'm trying to explore what happens in between. So I decided after last year, I decided that for 2019 I'm gonna release less and spend more time with whatever I'm working on. So that's what's happening now. I haven't released anything yet, but we'll see. I got stuff coming out.
Cool. So you're saying basically the key to getting things done is like setting these rules for yourself.
Yeah, it works for me at least. It's also a way to fit things in. I mean, I have 2 kids and a wife. I work a just about full-time day job, but I still want to make music. So how do I fit that in?
Yeah.
Well, it could be like a 30 minutes on the lunch break with a sampler, or it could be on my way to work in the morning, or a few hours on the weekend, whatever. But I have to find those moments where I can get things done. And when I have a moment like that, I don't want to waste it just thinking about stuff.
Right. So I've had many conversations with people about, actually getting things done, and
Yeah.
everybody struggles with it, seems, and needs something to kind of get them through it, which I find comforting, to be honest. I'm glad I'm not the only
Yeah.
one.
You're not alone.
Because like sometimes there's a part of me, like whenever I see a new release come out, I'm like, oh man, how did
Yeah.
that happen? How did they
Yeah.
do that? Another one from you? Like you just did one.
Yeah.
But the idea of like setting the rules, and also like you kind of alluded to, just like understanding the amount of time you really have, say, in a given week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had my first conversation with anybody on the show was with Ben Burns, and he's a YouTuber doing all kinds of cool stuff, putting out a lot of music and writing for video games. And I think he's doing it. I think he's still doing it, like a 2-hour track challenge every week.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things he really spoke about was like, actually think of your time like you do your bank account. Like you make a budget before, so if you can buy something. If you're making the time account, like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that, actually. Yeah, it was a good episode.
yeah, it really stuck with me. I should do it more, but it makes you just get some perspective. Like, if I only have this much time, if you have, like, say you said a half hour on lunch break, you can't be spending the time thinking about what you're going to do.
Yeah, or you can't spend 20 minutes on the hi-hat.
Right.
Or whatever.
So how do you eliminate that step? Is this in the rules? Or is this something you think about beforehand, I imagine?
Yeah, it happens. I'm not sure exactly how it happens. When I did 3 EPs, short commutes 1, 2, and 3. I did on the subway. I think it's like a 17-minute train ride to work. So I brought my OP1. I was into a certain kind of sounds at that time, so I didn't spend a lot of time searching for sounds. And then I was into I really liked the endless sequencer on the OP1, and I was into a few different scales. So what those releases are mostly, or like the basic idea is random sequencing around scales that I like, and then doing like a high track, a middle track, and a bass kind of track, and listening to how they clash and how they complement each other. So that's that. Yeah, that was one set of rules. Now I'm working on an ambient project with my SP404 sampler. I've had it for a bunch of years, actually, because I've used it just to play backing tracks for gigs I do with my wife. But I started sort of wanted to get more into how it actually making music on it. And all the videos I was able to find with it were about like lo-fi hip hop type stuff. And eventually I says, I wonder if this thing can make ambient music, and I so I decided to try a project with. So the SP404 has 12 sound banks, and there's 12 pads. So you get like. So I'll put a sample. So 12 banks, 12 banks equals 12 songs according to my rules for this project. So I'll put a sample on like pad 1 on bank A, whatever. This might get confusing. And then I can only use one sample for one track. So I got like wind chimes, and then I resample and pitch up and down and reverse and chop and whatever until I have a bunch of loops and textures then that I can make into a track. And then within the rules I can only I'll delete myself forward, so I don't save stuff. So I sort of commit to I guess it's a process of evolution. yeah, so that, and then usually I end up in a place where I don't remember what the original sample is, because what I end up with is so different. Yeah, so that's a set of rules, and then I just like, I feel like I just fiddle around with the stuff, but something happens that just I seem to move forward constantly.
And you're kind of exploring these rules for like the duration of the EP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And usually when I have an idea like that, I get really pumped up, and I'll like, okay, so 12 tracks, 12 banks of sounds, that's 12 tracks. Okay, I'll have a new EP in 2 weeks. But it never happens like that. But because now I'm sort of trying to slow down and hear like if there's music in the music that I haven't noticed before, if that makes sense.
That sounds pretty cool. And I really like that idea of having this like set of rules for an amount of time to do your
Yeah.
EP, and then kind of, okay, cool, new thing, new idea.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that on a 17-minute train ride, it must create a sense of urgency each time, right?
Yeah, it does. It's yeah, it really does. It's not a stressful thing, but it's really I don't know, it's just fast and fast and fluid, I guess. And then there's also, I was reading books on Wabi-Sabi, what I think is like an Japanese art philosophy or whatever. It's about finding the beauty in imperfection, and also everything is either evolving or devolving. So it's like about organic process basically, and so that helped me. Let's say I happened to delete something that I really liked because was like, I don't know, something happened. Just letting go of ideas of what might have been, or what I should have done, or whatever. Just accepting what is. Yeah.
Right. That's a really, I think, cool thing to do. You know, as we've gone into, I'm guessing you probably experienced this just like I did. Maybe like I started out on cassette tape recording with a 4-track, and you recorded over your part. At the end, it's gone. See you later. You messed up the overdub, or oops, I didn't mean to have that track record. Like, sorry, it's gone. And you do have no amount of bashing your fist against the table is going to bring it back.
No.
But now I don't know if it's like sort of like some sort of like trauma that's left over, where I think I know I'm like very tempted to like save every iteration, and now Ableton Live has backups of your set, so you can go back. I think in the last 10 saves, it can be really tempting to try to preserve everything every step along the way.
Yeah, it is. To me, that's part of. So first of all, whatever works for you or anyone else, that's the thing that works. So it doesn't really, I mean, do whatever you want. Whatever works is good. But I think that idea with like endless undo, or whatever you might call that thing, is like, that's part of the whole idea. When people say, "Oh, this machine is so cool, it can do anything." People say that about the OP1, for instance. There's so much you can do on the OP1. My OP1 does like 2 things. I mean, it can do a lot of things because that's how they built it. But I use it as a tape recorder to slow things down, and I use it sometimes as a sequencer. But I've let go of the idea that this thing is going to do full production type stuff. Right. I tried that and it's fine, but I don't know. I think I've sort of let go of this idea of everything being possible all the time. And I think that's just, I don't know, it's probably just an aspect of my personality or whatever, that I find a lot of freedom in not having too many options. But someone else might be super frustrated by that, and that's cool too.
Yeah, I know. I find that freedom when I have fewer options. Yet I'm drawn to all the possibilities too. So I definitely have this like good and evil relationship with it.
Yeah.
Where I'm excited to get the new plugin or the new sound pack, or I make so many of them myself, even just that I don't even use them half the time. I just keep making new ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like that never happens to me. It's just that looking back, I can see the things that I've done that I really like. It seems to be like one common denominator, or one thing the different projects have in common are really, really tight restrictions.
Yeah.
But I spent hours on YouTube watching synth reviews, just like the next guy.
I do that too. I know I'm not gonna buy it. I know.
Yeah,
I just
it's
want
not
to know
about that. It's just entertainment.
Yeah, it is, right? Like, listen to what you can do. It's you mentioned like the wind chimes.
Yeah.
And you did send me a track, which I don't think you've officially released, but
No, that'll be part of what's coming out.
yeah, it was really cool. And I've done the same exact thing with a set of wind chimes. I think I sent it to you as well.
Yeah.
That when I made those songs using just the wind chime samples, it was based on an Ableton Live pack I'd built. So I was restricted with just the samples of the wind chime and just the instruments I had already made out of it. So I kind of had the palette set, and I did those like in an afternoon.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're like musical masterpieces or anything, but when I listened back to them, I'm like, this is cool. And it took so little planning. It was just that I had my tools with me in front of me, and that was all I was going to use, and it just came out nice. Yeah. And I've done that before, and it doesn't always come out nice too, but at least it comes out.
Yeah, exactly. You do something and it becomes something, then you can decide later if is this releasable or whatever. I make stuff all the time that is never going anywhere. I just came back from, we rented a cottage on the countryside, my wife and I brought my OP1, and I was just like doodling around with it. Just like maybe, I don't know, make a beat, try working a little bit with a pattern sequencer, whatever. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just fun. Right. And I think, I don't know, it's not. I'm not making any further comparisons between me and Leonardo da Vinci, obviously, but if you go to like a museum somewhere where they have his stuff, you always see like, here's a sketch that 2 years later becomes his helicopter idea or whatever. But 2 years earlier, it's just scribbles on a paper, and I really like that. This exploring process, whatever techniques, everything doesn't have to become like a finished piece that you're gonna show the world.
I think what you said too about kind of being in the moment with it and just letting it happen is also a nice thing. I can definitely stress myself out while making music to think like, this has to be something. It has to be cool. It has to be nice. It has to be interesting. And sometimes there's a lot of freedom in just letting it happen.
Yeah. So for me, I make mostly ambient music. Does that mean I can never play around with a house track? It doesn't make sense to me. So if I want to do that, if that comes up when I'm just playing around, I'll spend some time with that, and it's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to look at it. And now, let me ask you, you mentioned in the last year or in 2019 anyway, you're trying to explore that middle part, the progress part.
Yeah.
So what are you finding there? How's that going for you?
Well, that's the thing. You never really know what you're going to find. I think that's why that part of the process is uncomfortable is a strong word, but it's easy to skip over it in the name of productivity. I think I was in 2018. I was a little caught up in the whole idea of getting stuff done, starting and getting stuff out the door, because I do a lot of that at work, and I don't know, pretty good at it. But then I sort of, I guess by the end of last year, I was sort of finishing the year up, lining some stuff up for like January release. And I was sort of, I don't know, running on fumes a little bit. So I found myself just sitting around with my tools and twisting knobs and stuff, just not really knowing what I was doing, not really hearing anymore if I liked what I was doing, that kind of stuff. So a little like a slight burnout kind of a thing, or just need a vacation, basically. So I took a little bit of, I don't know, time off from music. I mean, 3 weeks or so, not a huge vacation. But and then I wanted to do something sort of to ease my own mind, and that became the Meditation Waves project. Actually, the Meditation Waves project started with one of your videos, because I was looking to make like meditation music, sort of crystal bowls, singing crystal bowls type sounds that they play in like yoga studios and stuff. But I wanted to do it in with electronics. And then I happened to watch one of your videos where you demoed the wavetable synth in Ableton.
Okay.
And when you open up the wavetable synth in Ableton, the first sound you get, I think you played a chord or something. It sounded like a Rhodes and a little bit of like a toy piano type thing. And I was like, yeah, that's my EP. So I made an EP with only that sound, basically.
That sound is beautiful.
It's amazing.
It's super simple, but
I've been doing lots of stuff with the wavetable synth, but I'm still on like the default sound. I've been playing around with the envelopes and stuff, but yeah.
I'm glad someone else feels that way, because that is a synth that is meant to go deep on and really explore all the different wavetables. But if you just play it, as soon as it comes out of the browser,
it
it's
sounds
beautiful.
Good. Yeah, it sounds really good. So yeah, then I wanted to make a music project that was sort of intended to help people meditate, and that was the Meditation Waves project, basically. Yeah.
Are you a meditator yourself?
Yes, yeah.
You are, huh?
I mean,
running
on
into
and
a
off,
lot of that.
Yeah.
The last, well, by the time this episode comes out, this will be the third one, I think, in a row where something about meditation comes up.
It's a thing, man.
It is a thing. I mean, I've been dabbling in it myself, and it's cool to pay attention to what your mind is saying.
Yeah, it is.
What you're telling yourself.
It's not always fun or comfortable, but it's probably always worthwhile in some way.
I think so. I like to think of it as like you're with this person that is just talking in your ear 24/7.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
what are they saying to you? What is this
Yeah.
like internal
Yeah. Is this a good friend or not?
yeah. Sometimes you realize, oh, you're not being my friend right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah.
But I think through some meditation, and I'm for me maybe 10 minutes a day I've been
Hmm.
trying to do, and I definitely faltered on that quite a lot in the last like month or two, but starting to go back to it a little bit.
Hmm.
But the thing that I've picked up more than anything is just that whatever that voice is saying, good or bad, it's just a thought I'm having. There's no
Yeah.
real truth to it necessarily, and it's just things blabbering out of this
Yeah. It's just
friend's
sound.
mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
exactly. I think, I guess people who know about these things talk about becoming the observer of your own mind. So you're not one with your thoughts anymore, which I think is really healthy. Same thing. I was listening to someone talk about, about morning pages.
yes, just this idea to
Uh,
to write first thing in the morning.
yeah, exactly. Straight out of bed, write 3 pages without stopping, and it doesn't have to be anything, nothing to do with quality or content, whatever. It's just writing. And they say the idea is there that you, the things that are inside your head, end up on paper. Now you can look at them instead of having them in your head as they are, like not being attached to whatever's in there. There's a distancing between yourself and your thoughts that I think is freeing and healthy, basically.
Yeah.
Same idea with meditation.
Yeah, you are not your thoughts
Yeah.
necessarily, though you can easily become them.
Yeah. Oh, no problem at all. Happens all the time.
Yeah, I'll find myself if I'm starting to feel stressed or nervous or uncomfortable, I'll often be able to look at myself or look at those thoughts and say, you're doing that again. You're letting that thought run away with you.
Yeah.
And it's oh man, it's so easy to miss. But just getting in that little practice of just thinking about your thinking has been huge for me anyway.
Yeah. I think for me making music, it sort of gives me a lot of training in those. Like what happens just before you hit release on your new EP. Like every time I'm putting something out, I hesitate and start thinking, like, who's gonna, what? These are just standard thoughts. No one's gonna like this. No one really likes you. You're not good at, you shouldn't even be making music. All that, it's just a pattern that sort of repeats. And I've sort of, after being through it a few times, you can just go, oh yeah, here's that thing again. Usually it's better for me when I don't listen to that voice. Yeah. Not sort of taking for granted that every thought in your head is the truth of,
Yeah. Oh, imagine if it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just all the bad ideas and judgments.
Yeah, exactly.
And, whew.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That wouldn't be good, I think. But it's sort of, it's a constant thing. So like when you spend a day in the studio, you make something good, you feel like you're I don't know, a genius, probably up there with Miles Davis or someone. Or you don't get anything good, you think you're an idiot and you're just a hack that shouldn't be making music at all. Whatever. Both of those thoughts are not true, probably. But they're just like, you could sort of every once in a while you can catch yourself thinking them and just like, oh yeah, that old pattern again. I don't think I need it anymore, but it seems to be here.
Yeah. I get that all the time. There are times I feel like it's superhuman. Like I could do anything,
Yeah, yeah.
any type of song. I could make a version. I could take any sound, and it's really empowering and exciting. But it's really the same exact thing that's happening when I'm doing the opposite. When it's like, because there are other times it's like, I don't know how to make anything. I
Yeah,
can't,
yeah,
everything I do is bad and never gets done, or this or that. And, but it's really just that same thing. No more true or false.
no. I mean, thinking you're a genius is probably more helpful or like empowering.
Yeah.
If you
It's a
if you
good
have to
feeling.
choose. Yeah, it's a good feeling. It makes you sort of unafraid of doing things. So yeah, okay. If I have to choose, I'll choose that one. But it's just a thought. It's still just a thought.
Yeah, I think it often leads me to the defeated version of myself though too, because
Probably.
I'll,
Yeah.
I'll sit down like, all right, like I know how to I know how to use Ableton Live really well. I'm a certified trainer. I got this,
Mm-hmm.
And then I sit down and it's like, oh, I don't got this at all. Like, how did I get away with this? How did they not catch me along the way and say, you don't belong here, get out?
Someone's gonna come in through the door soon and tell you to go home.
Yeah.
You're not. Yeah.
Yeah, we made a mistake with you, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Well, it's just like hills and valleys, right? It's. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to be better at recognizing that those hills and valleys are just their thoughts too. They're just your own imagination.
Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, it's
But it is a practice really itself, like making music or anything creative really to harness that or I guess we have the most fun when we're not even really paying attention to those thoughts at all and we're just kind of losing ourselves.
Yeah.
Those are the good moments.
Actually, speaking of practice, this I've been trying this for started like August 1st or something. I've got a calendar by my door. So and I have 3 columns. One is where I write my hours at work, how much, so I can get my invoices right. And then I have another column for music and another column for yoga. So when I do my morning yoga, that gets a check on a day. And if I spend a little time making music, that gets a tick too. So in August, I think I did like 23. I did yoga 23 mornings out of 31, which I was really happy with, and something similar with music. So I basically do those things every day, week and stuff. But and the it doesn't matter what I do or how long I spend, how much time I spend making music on a Tuesday, just as long as I do something.
Right.
So that's has been really good for me to just make music a practice.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. I've definitely tried to like use it doesn't matter how long I spend as like a trick to get me to do it, because I think a lot of times if I can say just 5 minutes, just play around 5 minutes. And there's a lot of times I just don't want to do it, what I don't know. I love making music, but suddenly washing the dishes sounds really exciting. So, but the 5-minute trick is like, usually within those 5 minutes, something excites me enough to want to keep going.
Yeah, and then you're off to the races.
Yeah. That's a really cool idea too, just to, because even if you do spend 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes you wouldn't have spent.
It's 5 minutes, yeah. So I guess keeping the bar really low, almost so you can't fail. Like, let's say you want to get better at making push-ups, do 5 a day. You almost can't fail.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're doing more. But just making the starting really easy seems to be helpful, at least for me.
Yeah, I think so. It's 5 push-ups. I could do that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Don't even have to get changed.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
You had said you took some time off. when you were telling me kind of your history, and then you mentioned again later in January, I think it was, you took some more time off.
Yeah.
Do you find that helpful for you? Does that change your perspective, or is that just maybe you need to do other things?
When I did it in January, that was just, I think I just needed a rest. I think my head was kind of full, like with sounds and I don't know, impressions or whatever. So I needed to just give myself some slack to let sort of, if I can sort of, it usually happens when I take time off that sort of there's like, I get sort of more free space in my head, and then ideas can come up that are otherwise sort of suppressed by, I don't know, work things or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, just taking my foot off the gas a little bit usually helps, and before long I'll have some new exciting idea that I want to pursue. But when I did it a few years ago, that was more like I was doing the whole sort of singer-songwriter kind of a thing, making music about being alone and whatever. And I really I'm really happy with how that music sounded still, but I got really tired. I wrote a lot of music like that when I was kind of heartbroken and sad, and then I fell in love and stuff. So that whole shtick started to feel a bit, I don't know. I didn't want to do it anymore. So then I decided that I'm not gonna do, like, I don't want to sing songs about being sad and alone when I'm anything but. So I decided to not make any more music until I had something to sing about that felt fresh to me, and that probably. I think that was probably like 2 years or so when I didn't do anything, and then I still kind of struggle to write lyrics because I don't feel like, I don't know, it doesn't happen for me. But yeah, so that was I think that thing was more of a deeper process, sort of coming out of some kind of a depression or whatever. So that's probably that's a sort of a bit of a darker chapter. But yeah, silence, and then eventually something new happens, and then I'm off again.
Well, I guess you've kind of changed the look of what you're doing quite a lot. If you're going from singer-songwriter to like ambient music, is you know, it's kind of the other end. You don't have to say anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a cool thing about music that, you know, like lyrics are great, and you know, most of the music I like have them. But you can also say so much without saying anything, and with just the sounds. And then it's and even sometimes the things you say change every time you listen to them.
It's a lot harder to decide what's being said when you're not using words, I think. So it's more, I mean, me as a producer, I can come back to music that I thought meant something when I made it, and then it might mean something else to me, or sort of it will elicit different emotions. And I have less of a say when it comes to other people listening to my music, what they feel or think it's about, or and I kind of like that, just that you're just sort of presenting a vibe or a mood or an ambience, I guess.
Right.
But part of it is also like just a blank canvas for the listener.
Yeah, I agree, and it's easy for people to misinterpret your lyrics, you know. But
it's a lot safer to not have them there.
Because I always like to sort of embody a character. It seems to be like where I go when I write lyrics. Yeah. And often there is like a slice of me in there, but
Yeah,
it might be me taking that little slice and blowing it up and like just seeing where it goes.
yeah,
And it might be a little ridiculous, and I'm not really that angry, or I'm not really that upset, or I'm not whatever.
yeah,
But it's just kind of a fun exercise, I guess.
mm.
But it's very easy for people to be like, "Hey, man, you all right?" Or like,
That happened to a friend of mine. She was in therapy, and her therapist had printed out some of her lyrics, and did that thing like, is this something we should talk about? And she was like, no, they're made up.
yeah.
They're pop lyrics.
Oh, I would hate if someone did that to me.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
would-
That didn't work. That didn't work out.
Yeah, like, and sometimes it's just nice how the words go together. Even there's so many
Exactly.
reasons why you would choose a lyric, and
Yeah,
sometimes they flow nice. It's a good vowel consonant mesh, and
yeah, yeah, exactly.
it's easy to sing that note when I say that word instead of that word.
Yeah, yeah. Just yeah.
Yeah, that would be tough to have someone be like, okay, here's everything you've written. You've got some
Yeah.
explaining to do.
Yeah, exactly. What the hell do you mean, man? Yeah, that'd be weird. I don't think you're supposed to do that.
So I imagine like your job as a copywriter must be deadline heavy, correct? I mean, people
Yes.
need things now that at this time, by here, by then.
It's all deadlines.
Yeah, okay. So do you apply that to your music, or do you see like ways that has helped you find some kind of discipline?
Not specifically deadlines like that I would decide I need to have this EP finished by end of October, whatever. I don't do it like that. I do it with the restrictions, like these are the tools that I'm allowed to use, and it's yeah. In my copywriting job, I mean, I have deadlines, but they're usually really short. Like, I'll go in tomorrow morning, and someone's gonna want something by lunch. So that's how I stopped procrastinating. And there's set rules. I do a lot of work with smartphone apps and stuff. So there's always space restrictions. Then there's legal restrictions, what you can and can't say, and there's brand restrictions. We want to use this type of language and this type of style, whatever. So there's plenty of, I guess, guardrails or whatever to keep you in check, and also to help propel you forward. And I think that's similar to the music making.
Yeah.
But so the thing I'm exploring now with my music, just to let things take more time and see if I can find levels, like if there's music behind the music. I don't see myself getting paid to do that as a copywriter. Probably part of why I'm successful as a copywriter is because I am really fast and productive. And so yeah, that's more of a industrialized thinking, like how do I do things at a certain pace and to a certain quality repeatedly. Yeah.
Well, it does sort of sound like you've kind of found a way to mirror what works for you in copywriting in your music making, because like you said, they have a certain language they need because they have a brand and a target audience, and
Yeah.
they need it in a certain time, and there can only be 37 words or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's a lot like, I think that's a very cool thing to see the connections. And I just think like a lot of us are probably very productive in certain areas of our life, and then maybe in others, we don't see the systems, maybe it is, that are working for us that we can translate into the other aspects of our lives.
Yeah. So when I started I've been a copywriter for just over 10 years now, I think. And when I started, I sort of came from music, and I was like, oh, I'm a songwriter. I know how to write lyrics. This is going to be easy. And it's been easy because I know how to, I don't know, when you write song lyrics, you're also restricted to phrasing and, you know, how to, set structures with rhymes and whatever. So that was really easy to apply to my copywriting job. But I've just recently that I realized that I get something from my copywriting job that I bring back into the music, and that's to do with process and productivity, I think. So I used to view it as two different parts of my life, but now that I look at it, as you say, there's a lot of similarities, which makes it easier for me to go back and forth, to go between music and day job,
Right.
which makes both things a lot more fun, I think, for me.
Yeah. Well, and you have to if you are, trying to make the most of your 17-minute commute. Like the fact that you can transition real quick is, or the lunch break where you have a half hour and you're going to play with the sampler.
Yeah.
You can move back and forth.
Yeah. So that's
That might be like a good homework for us all to try to find the things we're good and productive at and see if we can draw out any of the commonalities and apply them.
I was at work. We have she's a coach, so I've been sort of doing sessions with her, exploring like under what circumstances do I enjoy my work the most, and what do I need to be the most creative or productive? And it's it can, I mean, on one hand I feel like I want to keep a bit of the mystery around the music making or sort of my art, because I have this idea that if I figure everything out, I won't need to do it anymore. And then like when John Cleese went to therapy and he sort of lost his need to be funny, I don't want to do that. But it's been really helpful to me to sort of, okay, how do I set myself up to enjoy my work and to enjoy my art and to enjoy life in general? How do I set myself up to be creative and productive? And it's good things to think about.
I think so. I'm a high school English teacher, so I'm around like teenagers a lot, and that's not something that gets taught at school. How to that kind of stuff. And this year, I think it's really become apparent to me, like just simple organization things, just to make your life a little smoother, so you don't go home and try to think about what your homework is, and you're like, oh my God, what did I have to do? What did we do in class early? And then like that's a lot of anxiety right there, and that might be enough to make a lot of kids just say, forget it, I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm trying to, and sometimes they'll open up their bags and it's just everything they've ever been handed has just been shoved in. And they don't know where anything is. And they open it up and they go,
try to make something out of that.
I would never survive. I mean, I use a calendar all the time, and I'm, making notes right now as we talk. I'm not going to remember all these things we said. And if I had to, I probably wouldn't be able to be a part of the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That must be interesting to get to do that with kids. I mean, we're adults and we have sort of, hopefully a little bit more mature and have some experience, but to have to do with kids, I mean, what a great way to help people. But I guess you'd have to find a way to talk about things that they can, I don't know, relate to or whatever. I mean, that's what you do, I guess.
Well, I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm trying to figure out a way. I don't think like saying, You should keep a calendar is really like making them inspired. It's like you're trying to turn
What a
me
great
into my
advice, Mr. Funk.
yeah. You're trying to turn me into like an old man or something.
Yeah.
I think the angle might be just to maybe talk to them about like how do you feel when you have to sit down and do your work, and the first thing is what do I even have to do?
Yeah, exactly.
And then all of that stress, and then did I remember everything, or the feeling when you show up in class and they say take out that thing and you're like oh
Yeah, exactly. What thing?
oh my god.
Yeah. Simple tricks, I guess, could help.
Yeah, I want to have as many of them as I can for myself. So.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what do you, what's coming up next? And maybe like, what is the, you said you're releasing some music soon. What is your current set of restrictions and rules looking like?
So currently, I'm doing the thing with the SP404. So that's one sample per bank, one sample per track. Basically, is what it's going to be, and yeah, so that's underway. It's a little hard to know what it's gonna end up like, but I'm thinking it's gonna be like a mellow ambient EP eventually. Then but that sort of got sidetracked for a few weeks now because I've been doing some, making some music for a client, for a ad campaign they're running here in Stockholm. So I actually got commissioned to do some stuff. That was really fun.
I guess that comes with its own restrictions too, right?
Oh yeah.
Like we need this.
Yeah. We want this track, but we can't afford Michael Jackson. So can you make something similar? That kind of thing. But it was super fun to just do something that was not. I don't know. It was more me at the end than I thought it would be in the beginning. It sounded more like me than I would have imagined first. Anyway, yeah. So that's happening, and I've got a collaboration EP coming out later this year. Some of my music has been released on a Norwegian label called Rural Sounds, and Lila Amparo, who runs that label, she also makes great sort of ambient guitar music under the name of Amparo. We've been working on some tracks together, so I think we have like a 5-track EP just about done. We're gonna, I don't know, touch up some mixes or whatever. So that'll be out. That was fun. It's collaboration is a little weird. I tend to look at it as just an exercise in saying yes to each other's ideas, and not being attached to the end result. I really like how those tracks are coming out, but they sound nothing like something I would make on my own. It's a lot more, well, it's beat oriented and I guess more accessible than things I've been doing on my own. But
well, I guess that's why you do it, right? Otherwise,
yeah. Yeah, it's faster if I do it myself, but it becomes just me then.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then I'm working on some music with my wife. She's doing some solo stuff, and we're sort of figuring out a new project together that we're gonna get started with soon.
I imagine that's an exercise in saying yes too.
Yeah.
Because like in that case, you have not only the like collaboration riding on it, but it's also the center relationship in your life.
Yes.
So
yeah, I think we've been lucky because we've always been sort of working well together. Whatever the project might be, can be putting shelves on a wall can be stressful enough if you're in the wrong relationship, or like hanging pictures. And we've been making music together for, I think it's 6 years or so now, and it's just usually it's just a whole lot of fun. So it's we've been lucky, I guess. Then I also have I don't know, I have this dream, I think it is, of releasing like some house music. I don't know how to figure that out yet. I've been playing around with it over the summer, like just some lo-fi stuff. But we'll see. I hope that comes together eventually.
That's cool. Yeah,
I think that's about it.
Well, that's probably a good way to handle all those restrictions too, is to have a lot of different types and styles of projects to work on.
That's a good point. I don't have to do everything on every track.
Yeah.
Never thought about that. That's a good idea, or a good good point.
It's very tempting to want to do everything on every track, because you could have a track that does everything.
I have the laptop with all the sounds in it.
I get the temptation with every song. Well, this song's going to have that awesome, huge explosion. And it's also going to groove out at the end, but it'll have a sudden ending. And like, you just can't do anything. I think it's cool to like have... I don't like the word gimmick so much, but I think it kind of captures what I'm saying. Like, have sort of each song should have its own gimmick, kind of like the thing it does. This is the one with that thing.
Maybe in like an identity or
identity. Yeah. I think back to like some of my favorite. I love the Beatles, for instance, and they have a lot of songs that do that thing. You could take like, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Like, now I can't think of any Beatles songs. But, Octopus's Garden, say. That's the one where they do the underwater sounds and they, whatever it is, it's just, it has like a stamp somewhere.
Yeah. I think they're, a lot of those, it's, I haven't been. I'm not a huge Beatles fan, but I mean, I love them and all, but I'm not I can't drop a whole lot of song titles or whatever. But for me, that thing you're talking about, like each song having a gimmick, I think that's what Tom Petty is for me. Like, there's just no fat on those. Yeah. And there's one guitar riff that is really good, and it's just that. Or like there's one hook, and then or like the song phrases are just so trimmed down. There's like very few ideas that goes into a song, but they're just made so, I don't know, it's hard to put it in words, but...
Well, I get what you're saying. If there were 27 guitar riffs and like, what's the one that's like, running down a dream?
Yeah.
If there was 16 other riffs, like, you wouldn't even notice that riff anymore.
Yeah, and then they changed the time signature for the middle eight or whatever, and then in comes a choir, then you're a queen, I guess. But
well, then you would say, that song that changes time signature, and then the choir comes in and they're like, well, which one? Because they all do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't stand out.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, so I guess one of I think that may be more of a philosophy I sort of consciously use as a copywriter, is that basically just constantly trying to get to the core of what needs to be said and what needs to be done, which great lyrics are a lot to do with absence of unnecessary words, and great art is a lot to do with not having things to mess the idea up. I think that might be. Yeah, I don't know.
I get what you're saying, though. You need to let it be on its own and stand out.
See what you did there with the lyric.
Let it be.
Let it be. Yeah. Yeah, I guess. How do you make space? You take things out.
Yeah.
You don't put more furniture in a room to make it seem bigger. You take things out. Same thing with lyrics. Same thing with music production, whatever.
Yeah, writing. I've been doing these exercises with my students in the English classroom, where normally it's at least 250 words and at least 3 pages, So they've been conditioned to think that more is better. And I remember that when I was younger, and you use the word very a lot. You got a lot of adverbs, really, really awesome, It's, you just fluff it up and you just say more nothing.
Yeah.
So we've been taking they've been getting word maximums, and we've been taking paragraphs. I'm like, all right, let's ruthlessly cut this thing down, and it'll be like a big 200-word paragraph, and we'll break it down to a sentence or two.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And they have a lot of stress about it. They're like, but it's so much shorter. I'm like, aren't you glad? Life is short. You guys don't want to read anything anyway.
Fewer words, good for everyone.
Yeah, we're all trying to get on with it. Why hold us up with all this extra nonsense? And then you could easily miss the point because you're distracted, and it's just like music.
Yeah,
you miss the point because there's 700 other things.
Exactly.
But man, isn't it tempting?
Oh yeah. Oh,
it's
definitely.
a tempting thing to just want to keep adding because you can.
Yeah, it's just so much fun to do, I guess.
Well, cool. Jörgen, thanks so much for taking the time to talk and sharing those ideas. I think they're really helpful and something I'm going to probably do more of myself. But in the Berkeley Online class I teach, the final project, it starts with setting restrictions.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, I'm just going to make the best song I can. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I'm going to just use, the set of restriction is not really a restriction.
Yeah, exactly.
That leaves the options open, and it's hard to cut yourself off, but it winds up really making a difference. The people that do that finish, and a lot of the people that don't struggle. So I think that's a great takeaway for me and for everyone listening to set your limitations, set your restrictions. You can always make another song later that doesn't have those. And
yeah, I did when I did an EP called Atoms of Night. The restriction was that I could only use. I sampled my electric guitar. I have a Gretsch Tennessee Rose, so I only used sounds from that. To make pads. I used it with Simpler in Ableton.
Awesome.
But then for one track I needed a kick. But so since I had the really tight restrictions, I could okay, I need a kick. Then it was sort of kind of easy to go outside the box to get one more sound. Not just like a expedition into endless.
Oh, yeah. So you what you realized is you had a need for something very specific, not let's just see what we can gather and throw in.
Exactly.
And I give that instruction with the final project. I'm like, make the rules, be strict, but if the music calls for it, also give the freedom to step out if you need to.
Yeah, and it makes to me at least, it makes the stepping out a lot more efficient.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
That's
cool. I got to re-listen to that because I didn't realize that was just guitar.
Yeah. It's a little rough sounding now. Yeah, but yeah. Pretty spacey.
Cool. I'm going to go back.
Awesome. Hey, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, it was awesome.
Super fun.
Yeah, I'm very happy we got a chance to do it. There's a ton of great pieces of wisdom here that are going to stick with me quite a lot.
Awesome.
And, just kind of shining the light on the idea of looking for what's working in one area and bringing it into others is something I'm going to try to pay more attention to.
Yeah.
Try to figure out what I do well.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably the same everywhere you're successful.
Yeah, I bet it is. Now, where would you like to send people that want to check out your music, your work?
Spotify is a good one. I'm not sure how big Spotify is in the States.
It's big.
Yeah.
I just happen to be using Apple Music, which is
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
like
on.
the other one to use.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm both of those. Jörgen Kjellgren, if you can spell that. And then.
Can we use a regular O, or do we have to do the?
No, it should work. Yeah.
Okay.
And then just my name on Instagram is where I put like snippets of things I'm working on.
Okay, and I'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes so people can just go click.
Also, my cat's in there on Instagram too, so that might be.
Okay, there's some motivation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my dogs make it in. I think they might have made it into this podcast.
Yep. Yeah, I love that stuff.
Well, cool, man.
Good.
Well, thanks so much. So,
thank you.
Yeah, check out Jörgen Kjellgren. Jörgen Kjellgren. We went over that in the beginning. I'll spell it just so people have it. It's JORGEN KJELLGREN.
Awesome.
We got that fun like Swedish KJ thing going on.
Yeah.
That you just do not see in American anything.
No.
You know? I've been exposed to a lot of. Sweden is just sort of a hotspot for a lot of like music and technology. I mean, you got teenage engineering, you got Electron and Clevgrind. I spoke to them at one point.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool what's coming out of there. Like some of my favorite stuff, and all of that stuff to me, it has in common is just this sort of like it's different. You know, it's not just another version of something you already have. It's a whole different take.
Yeah.
You know, Electron stuff or teenage engineering. Like there's no other company like either one of those.
I think they're maybe speaking of identity or gimmick, they're easily sort of identifiable for what they do. And I mean, the Electron stuff, the workflow, or like the teenage engineering, just the design aspect of stuff. Same thing with the Clevgrind plugins. They're recognizable just from the visuals, and they're also really good at what they're trying to do. So, yeah,
and they stand out too. Like, I might be looking for a compressor, but if I want their compressor, which I think is just compressor with a K. Is something different, and like it's like almost like I'm looking for something different when I go for that one.
Yeah. So, bit niche.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, man. I really do appreciate it.
Sure, man.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Check out the show notes. Check out Jörgen's work on Spotify, Apple Music, and there's a SoundCloud link which I'll put in there too, which is where I've been doing most of my listening. And have a great day, everyone.